Today is Friday, December 1st, which means that it's officially time to get set up for Christmas. As well as a Christmas tree, we have Mr. Michael Bublé going on 24/7 rotation now until January. Because in his words, it is beginning to feel a lot like Christmas. So Christmas has always been one of my favorite times of the year. There's a lot of negative stuff in the media about it, with consumerism and what it represents. But if you just boil it down to that one fundamental element where it's all about the giving and the being kind and the joy and the cheer, it's just the best time ever. We don't do big flash Christmas presents. We've never really been into that. But the idea that on December 1st you change your attitude to really bring about that Christmas cheer, I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. I think it's like you make this concerted effort to say, right, now it's Christmas, now I'm really going to put in the hard yards to make sure that for the next month, all we do is be as jolly and festive as possible. Now you could argue, well, why don't you do that, throughout the year? And I think the reality is, it's really hard to be like that 24/7. But when December 1st hits, that's it. You put all of that negativity and all those bad vibes aside, you put in the effort and you make sure that Christmas is a special time. Possibly the best 1st of December Christmas present that I could have asked for. It's been raining now for the last 2 days. On and off, we've probably had about 30 millimeters. This grass is going to look epic in a couple days. As I mentioned earlier, today is Friday, and it is the end of a very long and chaotic week. I don't know if you ever have those weeks where they start and you just know that it's going to be manic. One thing that this week has taught me, though, is that if you want to have a second job, you want to make sure that you enjoy that second job, because otherwise you're going to be doing 16, 18-hour days, and by the end of the week, you're just going to be thinking, what's the point? Being busy is good. I like being busy. I like having things constantly on the go. And let me run through where I'm up to at the moment with everything. So this is going to be the project that comes out on Sunday. I've still got to apply some finish, but it's a fruit bowl from a piece of bark that I got from all that recent timber. It's an interesting project because this bark is green. In other words, it hasn't dried yet, and I've covered it with epoxy. So there's a good chance that this is going to crack. But I'm hoping that because I've put epoxy over everything, as it shrinks, as the moisture comes out, it's going to shrink consistently everywhere, so you won't get too much unwanted movement. But I don't know. So this is an experiment. This is the whole point, and I'm quite interested to see how it lasts and how it dries. So this will be Sunday's video. I'm excited about it. I think this is going to be an interesting one. Last night was the second episode of the Stool podcast, and it went really well. Now, I don't know Joey and Jordan outside of this podcast at all, so I've only ever spoken to them a handful of times, but the three of us seem to work quite well together. So I'm happy that the dynamics of the group are working really well. We talked about what type of timber you should use and what type of finish you should use for outdoor projects, considering down here in Australia and New Zealand, the sun is very intense. And it was quite an interesting topic, and I've had a few people respond to the video saying that it's not something that they'd thought about, or it's an interesting thing because, we've never seen videos about this, because up in the States or in Europe, it's a very different type of sun. So I hope we can keep this trend of these. I don't want to say Australia specific, because that's not what this podcast is about. It's not about saying this is a podcast for Australians only, everyone keep out. That's not the idea. But it's more about bringing up topics that aren't necessarily talked about, because the majority of the people on YouTube, Facebook, SoundCloud, that kind of thing, they're all from either the US or Europe. So hopefully we can bring a different side to the podcasts, or the Maker podcasts. But either way, man, last night was a really cool gig. You may remember that I was trying to fix one of the downpipes on my gutters, and the ladder that I had was not tall enough. This week I went out and got a total length of 6.5 meter ladder, and this one should be enough. But man, what a pain to get it here. So I had to drive from my house to the hardware store, pick up hire the ute, then drive the ute back to my house, pick up the old ladder, the 5.4 meter ladder, drive back to the hardware store, drop that off, pick this one up, drive back home, drop this off, drive back to the hardware store, drop off the ute, and then come home. So if this ladder's not tall enough, I think I'm just gonna ignore the fact that I've gutters. I've also got all of this 2x4 timber, and the idea for this is I need to start working on some shop furniture. So the first one that I have in mind is a cart for my thicknesser. Right now the thicknesser sits over here next to my miter saw, and every time I need to use it, I've got to pick it up and put it on my bench here. Now it's not a huge problem. It's not a train smash, but I don't like the fact that I've got to do that every time, and there's no need for me to have to do that every time. So I've got this 2x4 material. I'm going to make up a simple cart on wheels that I can then push the thicknesser around, and then after that I need to use some of this. I want to make a second very wide bench that runs all the way along that wall, high enough to have shelves and a tool rack, and that wall will basically be where everything is stored. So that's everything that's going on in the workshop at the moment. I just wanted to do a quick update today because, as I say, it's the first of Christmas, so I'm crazy excited, but also just to let you guys know what's going on and what's coming up. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.